Boston back at it, playing the New York Rangers, hoping for a better start, better effort, just better everything than what they have shown in their last two games in the state of New York. As we know, was it four? I honestly forget the ungodly amount of goals that they gave up in their last two games. Unacceptable either way. But with that being said, finish the road trip strong. Show some effort and show some grit. Show some toughness. Play Boston hockey. Do they do it? On the Bruins Recap Show.
Boston Bruins.
We start things off in the first period. 2U's, 2K's, Tuukka Rask going up against Alexander Georgiev, the same two goaltenders who started on Friday night. Completely new look to the fourth line for the Boston Bruins, as getting his first start of the season is Greg McKegg, and also returning to the lineup for Boston, the coolest man on ice, Carson Kuhlman, as they join Sean Kuraly, which means Anders Bjork and Chris Wagner sit for tonight, so hopefully message sent. Also, a little bit of defensive change, as veteran defenseman, journeyman defenseman for the Boston Bruins, Steven Kampfer, into the lineup, replacing Johnny Moore, and my goodness, could this change have not have happened sooner, as Steven Kampfer played a very, very good defensive game, unlike what John Moore has given us in the past 2-3 games. So, start things off, the Boston Bruins on the power play, and it's a terrifying moment for the New York Rangers, as Nick Ritchie in front of the net, jamming away at a loose puck, eventually will fall, and Nick Ritchie is not a small man. He is not a small man in the slightest, and he falls directly on the head of Alexander Georgiev, who, to his credit, attempted to stay in this game. Like, I am amazed that at the early part of this, he tried to stay in. I thought sheer, concussion, Unfortunately, it would lead to a 4-on-4 opportunity, as there was some fighting and some fisticuffs and all kinds of nastiness afterwards, as you'd expect. So some roughing penalties, the Boston power play taken away. Either way, it is a 4-on-4, and this is just a beautiful play by Boston. Transition and speed to the neutral zone as Charlie McAvoy gives it up to David Pastrnak, who gives it over to Charlie Coyle with speed into the New York zone. And he uses some stick positioning and some grit and some power, gets around DeAndre Miller, and a beautiful finish. Unfortunately, it is on Alexander Georgiev, but a great finish nonetheless from Charlie Coyle. Makes it a 1-0 game. And immediately after this goal is scored, I don't know if there was just a delay from the concussion spotters in getting to the New York Ranger bench. I really honestly don't know why. At least immediately after Nick Ritchie fell on Georgiev, they let him to stay in there. Igor Shesterkin, not going to do that bit again. He is in after the goal for the New York Rangers, but it won't matter all that much. A little bit later on in the first period, pressure from Jack Studnicka forces the New York Rangers to cock the puck up the wall. It gets taken by Jake DeBrusk down into the wall. Eventually, Jack Studnicka will get the puck back, gives it up to Connor Clifton, who has time to skate into it, and there is Jake DeBrusk and Trent Frederick causing chaos in front of the net. It goes off of Trent Frederick, and the Boston Bruins are up 2-0 in the first, and a beautiful, much better first period it was. 39 total hits from both teams, and it wasn't one-sided. It was actually fairly even. I think it was 19-20. The New York Rangers were being were having their shots completely blocked by the Boston Bruins. 9-4, back-checking by the forwards, and this was a theme throughout pretty much the entirety of the game. Forwards back-checking, defensive people getting into the passing lanes, getting into the shooting lanes, keeping the puck away from the dangerous area in front of Tuukka Rask. We go to the second period. So in the second period, to start anyway, I have to completely admit that I had to look this up on Google Translate, but Alexander Georgiev translates in Bulgarian, or translates from Bulgarian to tough as nails, as Alexander Georgiev returns to this game after the first period. He comes back in the second. Again, physically engaged forwards and back-checking from the Boston Bruins. They looked great defensively in the second and pretty much for the remainder of the game, with one exception, which we'll get to in a second. Anyway, it is a face-off win from Patrice Bergeron. He gets to the stick of Brad Marchand. He takes a shot. It goes wide, but it will go up the wall and will get grabbed by a pinching in Charlie McAvoy. And Charlie McAvoy and David Pastrnak will just play a little pitch and catch all the way up the wall, all the way up the blue line, until eventually it gets back to the stick of Charlie McAvoy, who fires it. And Alexander Georgiev have no shot at seeing this puck, as all he can see is 37 right in front of him. Again, pucks and bodies to the front of the net. Good things happen. The Boston Bruins 3-0 on a Charlie McAvoy shot. In the third period, though, the Boston Bruins will have a defensive mistake. And I chucked this up more so to Greg McKegg not being in the lineup all that much. It's pretty much just a defensive miscommunication, which, again, can happen. But no team is 100% perfect. We'll go with that. As Alexis Lafreniere, my God, is this kid going to be good. Drops it back to Colin Blackwell at the blue line, and Blackwell getting way too much time, way too much space. Gets a shot, going high blocker onto Garask. Craig McKegg getting there a little bit too late. After this, though, Blackwell running over Greg McKegg, and Greg McKegg, taking absolute exception to that, takes two hands on a stick and whack. Which is 2 minutes to Blackwell for running over McKegg, and McKegg 2 minutes for you can't whack a guy with your stick regardless of what happens. So 4-on-4 doesn't result in anything. A little bit later on, I mistakenly did not see the reason for the call. Craig Smith getting 2 minutes for unsportsmanlike conduct. And at that point, being down 3-1, being down by 2 goals, the Rangers will eventually pull Alexander Georgiev. But Charlie Coyle, with his second of the game, a short-handed empty netter from within his own blue line. 4-1, your final. And we get a little bit of extracurricular activities as a fight between Brendan Lemieux and Nick Ritchie to end the game. A much, much, much better game for the Boston Bruins as they beat the New York Rangers in Madison Square Garden. Just night and day difference from Friday night. This is exactly what you want to see from your Boston Bruins. Just utter, almost perfection. So, with that being said, we're going to do something a little differently. In the comment section, please tell me your 3 stars of Saturday or of Sunday's afternoon's game. So, right away, comment your 3 stars. And next up for the Boston Bruins, they get the Washington Capitals on Wednesday. Another NBCSN game. So, looking forward to it. And hopefully, on home ice, this effort stays. On the next Bruins Recap Show.